On this side, the stained glass windows depict the gestures and parables regarding the Lord's mercy.
The rose window, the central medallion, shows Jesus Christ as a merciful judge with Mary and John the Baptist.
While the outer medallions depict different stories from the gospel. First, the church triumphant represented by a richly dressed woman and many small details.
Then there's the lion of Mark the evangelist, followed by two prophets, one who's riding, the other holding the papyrus.
The winged man from Matthew the evangelist arrives. He represents the human genealogy of Jesus. There's also a blindfolded woman who presents the synagogue medallion.
And then the eagle of John the evangelist, which represent the heavenly mystery. Nothing soars higher in the sky than an eagle.
Two medallions represent prophets, and finally, the bull of Luke the evangelist.
In the small pieces and detailed drawings, we've noticed some particular features that we want to chat about, Grandma.
There's the Good Samaritan, like the expression Grandpa often used, which comes from a biblical parable.
On the fourth panel, we notice a lot of creativity, striking a balance with the kinds of plants.
We then notice on the next panel contrasting colors.
And finally, the Good Samaritan at the inn. It's church.
In window C, the one with Mary Magdalene, we learned that the artist combined passages from the Gospel regarding Mary Magdalene and Mary of Bethany.
She is the sister of Lazarus, the man Jesus raised from the dead.
Well, the stained glass windows depict a silent character. He's solemn.
The faces seem to be contemplative, pensive, lost in thoughts, meditative. Looking at them, I find that we also enter into a pensive state.
Window D depicts the parable of the prodigal son.
What's remarkable at first is the disorder that's filled with colors and patterns.
It's a jumble, but it reinforces the idea that the characters are moving.
What's notable in all the windows is that windows A and E depict theological virtues.
Abilities that God Himself has given to us to help us live in communion with Him. Those are faith, hope, and charity.
And these virtues are represented by women.
There's also a difference in tone among the theological virtues.
In shades of red.
And the cardinal virtues: prudence, justice, fortitude, temperance.
In shades of blue.
Now, if you don't mind, Grandma, we're going to move on to the fifth stained glass window, the rose window.
In the middle, we can see Christ and the apostles, Peter and Paul.
At the bottom, we see Saint Vincent de Paul, who represents the love of God and, therefore, love for others.
A man who was aware of the misery of the poor. And his name has long been used to refer to a non-profit organization whose mission is to fight poverty and social exclusion.
In Trois-Rivières, the Saint Vincent de Paul charity is located on Royale Street near the Crown Roundabout. That's where you used to volunteer, Grandma.
And then we can see Saint Bernadette. Mary appeared to Bernadette Soubirous in 1858.
The other panel depicts the huge figure of simplicity and faith, Saint John Mary Vianney. You used to pray to him, Grandma, just before communion for greater spiritual depth.
And he is a patron saint of priests. He established communities whose objective was to train priests.
And the next one is Grandma's favorite, Joan of Arc with her sword and armor.
Her face is one of the most beautiful among all the stained glass windows.
You mean so far?
Yes, indeed. But since I've already looked at all the stained glass windows, it really is the most beautiful one. That's why Grandma loved it so much.
Here's a brief version of Joan of Arc's great story. She grew up during the 100 Years' War, and she heard voices when she was 13 years old that asked her to help save France from the English and to get Charles VII crowned.
In the spring of 1429, Joan of Arc set out escorted by a few men, and she forced the English to leave Orléans, which they had occupied for 6 to 8 months.
Charles VII was crowned the following autumn.
But in a dramatic turn of events, French agents from her own country, which she saved, arrested her and handed her over to the English.
After that, she was tried by an ecclesiastical court for heresy and, above all, for witchcraft.
Her trial lasted 3 months, and then she was burned at the stake. However, she was rehabilitated in 1456.
Moving along, we can now see Saint Remy baptizing King Clovis.
And there's a debate regarding the historiography. There's uncertainty whether it was on December 24th or December 25th of the year 496.
But that baptism brought the Franks into the Catholic religion.
And then there's Saint Louis of France, which is also the name of a sector of Trois-Rivières.
Saint Therese of the Child Jesus. Shortly before her death, she predicted that she would make roses rain down. You remember Grandma always placed roses in a vase on October 7th to celebrate her.
Saint Francis de Sales, who introduced Christian life to the laity, he was attentive to everyone and dialogued with Protestants.
He became a very gentle man and founded a religious order based on the gentleness and charity of Christ.
That order would visit the poor and care for the sick, and welcome the weak and infirm.
Finally, Saint Catherine Labouré.
Mary appeared to her when she was in a convent.
Mary is said to have asked her to produce a medal with the invocation.
O Mary, conceived without sin, pray for us who have recourse to you.
Millions of those medals were made, and I think Grandma has 10 or 12 of them.
That's normal. It's a miraculous medal. You can even see it in the stained glass to her right.
And now, Grandma, a very important feature.
We're going to tackle the information on the landsets regarding Canada's pioneers and discoverers.
So, we're going to take a break and find a comfortable bench where we can sit down.